republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as we call this meeting to order, I thank everyone for being here tonight. I hope everyone had a good Labor Day weekend. To be honest, as for myself, Labor Day is one of the least liked holidays.
I hear you.
Again, I thank everyone for being here. Hope you had a good Labor Day weekend. That's probably one of my least favorite holidays, simply because after Labor Day it starts getting cold. You can't swim or ski anymore without freezing. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of people in this room are looking for a cold snap to come to get out of some of this heat. Specs will start biting, hunting season's right around the corner, and it's already football season. So I said all that just to make a point to get this started. Everybody in this room has different likes, different opinions, but at the same time, one thing that keeps us all together, we're all from Bradford County, everybody in here probably. So tomorrow, after this meeting, we're still all going to be from Bradford County. So I say that to just ask, I know this meeting tonight, there's going to be a lot of comments, I can already see it. Please bear with us, and I just pray you'll be kind in your comments. Get to the point, because that's what you're here for. But please be kind, be courteous, just knowing that whatever you say tonight, you're going to have to live with all the citizens in this room from now on, as long as you're in Bradford County. So again, I do have a lot of comment cards. We are going to hold it to 3 minutes. There will be no trading off time to let somebody else speak for you. 3 minutes. When you come up, please just state your name, your address, and then again you'll have 3 minutes. But at this time, as we get this public hearing started, I'm going to turn it over to our fire chief, Ben Carter.
Hilda, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me in the back?
Yeah.
All right. Things cutting in and out. Let's take a hand. Hello. Test 1 2. Test. How about now? Okay, perfect. Good evening. I want to start this off by just saying that I really hope that tonight can be a respectful conversation of some more information regarding the fire assessment. And you know, this whole issue, I know obviously is a very emotional topic. Anytime we start talking about finances and budget, that's obviously, like I said, a very controversial topic, a very hot topic to everyone. This has never been a fire department versus Bradford County issue. And this has never been a Bradford County issue versus the fire department. We realize that as well. And so I just want to make that very clear that, you know, I truly hope in your public comments tonight that you don't attack the men and women who are doing the job. Because that's, you know, they deserve better than that. And I would just ask that professionally. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started into the presentation. So let's talk about how we got here in the first place. So in 2019, the fire department was turned over to the sheriff's office. I'm going to walk a little bit closer over here so I don't keep cutting out of range. The fire department was turned over to the sheriff's office in 2019 due to lack of volunteerism at the time and some issues with some responses. And so on August 20th of 2020, the sheriff presented a budget proposal for the fire department, and at that meeting there was consensus from the board to bring back the fire department underneath the Board of County Commissioners. At that same meeting, the sheriff did express funding concerns. He said that the men and women currently responding to calls need to know whether or not the board is going to fund the department and what they can expect in the future. And we're still in that situation today. On September 8th, 2020, there was a special meeting called, and at that meeting was the approval of the fiscal year 2021 Fire Rescue Operations and Action Plan. And in that action plan, and along with that meeting, there was the vote was made to create a fire and rescue department combined. That was unanimous pass 5-0. They appointed Alan Parrish as the director. Again, 5-0 unanimous pass, and approve a combined budget for fire rescue, also passed 5-0. At that meeting, Ms. Roden, who was the interim county manager at the time, pointed out that the unassigned fund balance is not a reliable revenue source. The unassigned fund balance is used to help balance the budget at the end of each fiscal year. The board will need to consider a reliable revenue source to fund fire operations in fiscal year 21 and 22. So as you can see, this has been a long time discussion. This is nothing new. The plan before the commission at that time was turned over to Director Alan Parrish. And the plan before the commission was seeing that it was the best plan moving forward, and has been well vetted. The plan to be looked at as a long-term solution, not a short-term patch. The county's done a tremendous job of investing in equipment and infrastructure. The missing piece is people. In order to have a quality department, you have to invest in people. So within that fiscal year 2021 Fire Rescue Operations Plan, there was one director / chief. There was a fire division chief, an EMS division chief, one operations captain, one training captain, 2 daily roaming lieutenants, 5 ambulances, and 3 engines. This is the operations plan this was the command structure that was approved within that operations plan. And as you see, there were 5 ambulances approved in that plan. On March 17th of 2022, the 5th ambulance was removed from service. We were under hiring freeze within the county, and so we were down 5 personnel, which was around $500,000. And so in order to, we had the option to either fill those positions, we could staff those positions with overtime, or we could eliminate that unit. And that was the decision from the board, was to eliminate that 5th ambulance. On June 6th of 2022, it was moved by Vice Chair Andrews and seconded by Commissioner Thompson to appoint myself as the Chief of Fire Rescue. And so I've been serving in this role for just over 3 years. And this is our current operations plan, our command structure. So you have myself as the Chief of Fire Rescue. We have a division chief, training captain, an operations captain, and our fire marshal. And then you'll notice here as well that we only have 4 ambulances on the road and 3 engines, as well as an EMS lieutenant and a fire lieutenant. And so from the original operations plan that was approved, we eliminated 1 ambulance. We eliminated an administrative assistant. We changed 1 position from a chief level position to a captain. And we were up at 60 full-time employees, and we're now down to 56 full-time employees. Along with that, you'll see, like I said, the division chief position and the operations captain was what was previously a division chief position. So when people say that there's too many chiefs, not enough Indians, we have 2 chiefs for this department. We're going to talk about NFPA, and I realize this is Bradford County. We're never going to meet NFPA standards. This is something that is the national guideline that all fire departments use as the benchmark, as well as lawsuits that happen when there's an injury with a firefighter. They go back and they pull NFPA 1710 requirements. And so we'll just take a look at those real quick. So for 2,000 square foot residents, NFPA 1710 recommends that you have 16 firefighters on a standard house fire. Right now, Bradford County Fire Rescue can give you 7. For a strip mall, they recommend 27 firefighters for that event. Again, we can give you 7. And for your first responding unit, so from the time that you're paged to the time you get on the scene, their benchmark is 4 minutes. And our average response time right now is 9 minutes and 18 seconds. And people say, well, we don't have those big commercial structures. We don't have these large events. But this is just a short snippet of things that I've been able to pull just quickly off my phone from photos of the events that we've had here recently within the last few years. This was the motel fire in Lodi. This was an overturned semi on 301, a train versus semi in Lawdy. This was the motel fire here in Stark, and yes, it's inside the city of Stark. They have their own department. However, we do respond to assist them for mutual aid. Again, overturned semi on 301, same here in front of the fireworks store, vehicle fire north of Lawdy, and then the sawmill fire.
Today, a large fire at a Bradford County sawmill is now out. TV20's Alyssa Perry joins us live from Lawdy. And Alyssa, how long did it take firefighters to put the flames out?
It took more than 5 hours for the Bradford County fire rescue teams to extinguish the fire at the Tatum's Brothers sawmill. Firefighters say they got the call around 3:30 this morning. Bradford County Fire Rescue was joined by crews from Clay County Fire Rescue. The family-owned business has multiple buildings on site, including a sawmill, 2 planter mills, and a shop. District Fire Chief Dylan Rogers saying crews have responded to the mill several times over the years. TV20 was there in 2018 when a fire destroyed most of the business. We asked Rogers to compare the size of today's fire to the one in 2018.
About the same in comparison. A fire like this takes a lot of resources, manpower, and just doing the best we can with the resources that we have to mitigate the situation.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation, but one of the owners tells TV20 he thinks it was started by electric wiring. As we mentioned, this isn't the first time the Tatum family has seen their business burned. TV20 Hala Zell was able to talk to one of the owners this morning about what they're going through and how they're feeling. Let's take a listen.
Look, these boys is like family. I went to school with half of them's daddy, you know what I mean? Some of them's daddy worked for my granddaddy. I went to school with them. You know, this is a small community, and they're more important to me than the shed is.
All Tatum can think about while watching his building burn for the second time is his employees.
Some of the boys has been working for me 35, 40 years, you know, and they'll be all right. Yeah, we'll keep them working.
He believes the material inside the sawmill makes it prone to fires.
All the debris, everything is wood. So it lays there. We clean constantly and trying to clean up constantly to put the fire hazard down, but you never get away from it.
The owners tell me their family has been in this industry for generations, and they take the good with the bad. With every fire, they just rebuild and hope for the best.
In 2018, the sawmill was engulfed in a mechanical fire.
It's going to take a while to clean things up, and then we'll have to start back the rebuilding process. Unfortunately, this is not the first time we've had to do this.
But Tatum remains positive.
Hopefully, this won't set us back too bad. It's certainly a slap in the face, but you have to take the bad with the good.
Reporting in Lawdy, Hawa Ezel, TV 20 News.
And the point of that is to show you these things do happen, right? Whether it be a semi overturned, whether it be a hotel fire, a sawmill fire, these things happen in our community. So again, and I can tell you, I was on social media. I looked at some of the comments on there, and I tried to go through and address some of those comments. And I do my best not to interact on a word of mouth page or anything like that. But I think what is important is that we get correct information out there. And so I've encouraged people to come by. I've encouraged people to come look at the budget and explain these things to them. And so we'll look at a few things that, again, are myths versus facts. Some people say, again, that we did away with the volunteers, right? That we ran them off, that there was no volunteer, we were the ones who ran these volunteers off. And that's just simply not the case. And I feel like I can speak pretty intelligently on this because I grew up in this county as a volunteer at Hilton Springs. My deputy chief, Dylan Rogers, started as a volunteer at Hilton Springs. We have multiple people on our department. Our community paramedic, David Weeks, started as a volunteer with the Theresa Fire Department. And so we have the knowledge of what it was like to be a volunteer in this county and how hard that was, especially when the volunteerism started to decline. But a lot of what happened is the state increased the requirements that it takes for you to become a volunteer firefighter. So in order for you to volunteer, you have to go through 206 hours of training to be a volunteer firefighter in order for you to be covered. It's also over $1,000 worth of training and time, right? If you're volunteering, it probably means that you have a job somewhere else. And so who's going to spend that 206 hours and $1,000 or more in order to go through this volunteer training? In addition to that, it's another 190, 200 hours to go get your full certification to become a full-fledged firefighter, to go get paid to do this job. So anybody who goes this far into it is going to continue the rest of the way to go get paid and become a career firefighter. And just to show you that this is not a new issue, I want you to look at the date. You probably can't see it, but this was Monday, January 14th, 2019. This is from the previous fire chief to the county manager. Say, good afternoon. Saturday, January 12th, 2019 at 12:55 hours, as J.F. Miller and I were involved with the Station 2B staff members at the new station on Southeast 8th Melrose. Stations 3, 4, 5, and Medic 5 were paged to a residential fire in the 2600 block of Northeast 20th Avenue in Lottie. No other calls for assistance were active at this time in the county. J.F. Miller and I quickly went en route to the fire, non-emergent. 12 minutes into the event, one member of Station 4, which is Hilburn Springs, one member of Station 4 acknowledged the page and no apparatus were responding. I requested dispatch to repage the initial stations in an attempt to bolster any additional responders. The attempt failed. Medic 5 did arrive within 8 minutes of being toned and provided quality information several times within the response timeline. Medic 5 crew performed with the utmost professionalism that provided for a positive result for not only the customer but to the county as a whole. Still with no further response from stations 3, 4, or 5, Miller's and our response was upgraded. We staffed Engine 70, which was stored at the Fairgrounds building there at 2300 North Temple, the old FHP building, and responded in Engine 70. Engine 70 and Engine 40 arrived at the same time, a 26-minute response time. Engine 40 arrived with one firefighter who just finished basic training last month. Tender 53 had a 40-minute response time and was staffed with only one firefighter who also finished basic training last month. Unfortunately, this response characteristic is becoming the norm, as last month's Crystal Lake home site's structural fire response with one firefighter from Station 2 and the elongated response times to the motor vehicle accident in Brooker over the holidays are testaments to. I fear this action, the lack of a proper response if left unaddressed, will be the probable cause of injury or death. This was back in 2019 when there was still a volunteer system. And again, this is not something that was created by myself. It was not something that was created by this board. It was not something that was created under the sheriff. The volunteers were absent. Have the utmost respect for the volunteers in this county, because we had the best volunteer system in the state of Florida right here in Bradford County for many, many years. And again, I'm qualified to say that because I was one of them for quite some time. We'll talk about pickup trucks, right? I heard everybody talking about there's pickup trucks all over the place running up and down the road. My pickup truck is a 2021 F-150. This was purchased through the state EMS matching grant with all of the upfitting, which is light, siren, all of those things, was completed here in-house by our fleet maintenance supervisor. Cost to taxpayers was right around $7,500. The division chief currently drives a 2014 Ford Explorer that was transferred from the sheriff's office. The upfitting was also completed in-house. Our operations captain drives a 2010 F-150. It was from the 2009 County Awards Grant. Upfitting was completed through Grant and CARES Act funding. This was back during COVID when we had this thing upfitted then. And the cost to taxpayers was right around $650 for the decals. Our fire marshal drives a 2011 F-150 that was transferred from the sheriff's office, and all of the upfitting, lights and sirens, was all completed in-house. $650 for decals. Our training captain drives a 2024 Ford Expedition. This was purchased through the opioid abatement settlement funds, and the vehicle and upfitting was all purchased through there. This was zero cost to taxpayers in Bradford County. Our community paramedic drives the same vehicle, the 2024 Ford Expedition, that was also purchased through the opioid abatement funds. All the vehicle and upfitting was purchased through those funds at $0 to taxpayers. EMS lieutenant drives a 2023 F-150 that was purchased using unused grant match funds. The upfitting was also completed here in-house. We did pay full price for this vehicle here. We did not pay for the upfitting. Again, that was done here in-house. Cost to the taxpayers was $45,000. Our fire lieutenant drives a 2021 F-150. We had, at the time when the county had an IT department, they had a two-wheel drive 2019 F-150 that was transferred over from the clerk's office, and we were able to trade that in for a good value and actually received more on the trade-in than we did for the original purchase price of that vehicle. The upfitting was completed in-house, and we were able to get a four-wheel drive vehicle instead of a two-wheel drive vehicle. Cost to taxpayers was $9,883. People ask, why do we use four-door? This is just a small snippet of the equipment that we carry on all of our apparatus. Every one of our supervisors that you see riding around is fully ALS capable. So they have the ability, if somebody gets called to not breathing, somebody unresponsive, that supervisor, myself included, I'm a certified paramedic, so are all my admin staff are all certified paramedics. If we're riding down the road and somebody gets called to somebody not breathing or somebody choking, we're able to go do the same thing that an ambulance can do, except for we can't transport you to the hospital. But we have the same certifications, we have the same level of training that an ambulance, anybody on an ambulance would have as well. And so we do carry a lot of equipment in these trucks. As you can imagine, it takes a lot of room. These things take up a lot of space. But I want this to show you that we're not just going out and buying new vehicles and buying new pickup trucks and riding up and down the road and throwing away money. We look at every avenue we can to figure out how can we do this, how can we make these purchases without causing a huge burden to the taxpayers. These are vehicles that we've transferred over to the Public Works Department. And this is, again, it's just a very small snippet of that. We've transferred many more than this. But had we not transferred these vehicles over to Public Works would have had to buy these vehicles. They would have had to purchase these vehicles. So we try and get every bit of useful life that we can out of all these trucks, all these vehicles. Again, we transfer them over to the next department. All right, I'm sure many of you have seen the construction of the new fire station at Sampson City. So this was the building that was there previously. It was, if this building looks familiar, they use these for local job sites, right? The construction site, things like that. Now this was built to a little bit beefier specs than what you would see on, on your average construction site. But still, we got every bit of useful life that we could out of these buildings. So we were able to sell this building on Gov Deals for $11,250. And that may not seem like a lot, but let me show you a little bit of the interior. So these are mushrooms growing up through the floor of the fire station. Also mushrooms growing up through the floors of the fire station. I don't know if you can eat these or not. We didn't try. This is a rotten floor in the bathroom. And this was the entire floor replacement in the bathroom, bedrooms, and living area. Again, from a 2019 building, right? These are not meant to be a 24/7 use building. They're meant to be a job site, trailer, and that's what they're intended use for. We got great use for them. We got great use out of them, but we knew this wasn't a long-term solution. We knew this was, hey, let's get by until we can figure something else out, and we were able to figure that out. Again, this is one of the bedrooms that we replaced the entire floor in. So we were able to go from this, and you see there's a lot of vehicles parked outside, right? The two on the left side are our employee vehicles, but the other two that are sitting outside of that station, those are response apparatus that we didn't have room for. We couldn't put them inside the station, so they're sitting out in the sun, they're sitting out in the weather. We had nowhere to put them. So we were able to go from this to this. This is what's being built. This was fully funded through state appropriations. The state got us $850,000, and it was actually when our attorney this evening, Mr. Bradley, was our senator at the time. And it was while the fire department was under the sheriff's office. And their goal was to build a new headquarters and training facility at the Hilburn Springs location. Once the board brought the fire department back under the Board of County Commissioners, We already had a headquarters building. We had the headquarters right there behind the courthouse and beside the sheriff's office. We didn't need to build a new headquarters, but what we did need is to get them out of these trailers that were literally falling apart and having mushrooms growing up through the floor. So we went back to the state, and this was a multi-year process to try and get this done. But we went back to the state and we said, look, we can't use this money at Open Springs anymore. We just don't need to put something there, because the last thing we wanted to do was build a building and then not put anybody in it. So we said, is there any way that we can transfer these funds around and use them for our Sampson City site? Because that's the most centrally located station in our county. And we really would like to be able to use the funds there. And so through Senator Bradley, through Representative Brandon, we were able to get those funds reappropriated and able to use those funds to be able to build this station, with the addition of the 2 bays that you see there as well. So we have more room to house the equipment. It's not out in the weather. We're not letting a $200,000 truck sit in the rain and weather. We're now able to put that inside the building, and it's secure. The station is great. I can tell you, I just went to a neighboring county's grand opening of their fire station. It was $12 million is what they spent on their fire station. We've been able to build this for under $850,000.
Where was that?
I'm sorry?
$12 million. Where was that county?
That was over in Clay County.
Way bigger, a lot more money.
Correct, I agree. Way bigger, a lot more money, you're right.
It's a bigger county.
All right, so let's talk about fire station locations and your ISO information, right? You've probably heard ISO, that word tossed around. And you may see what on your insurance may be called your public protection classification. 1 is the best that you can receive, and 10 is no recognized protection. So Bradford County, as we currently stand, our current rating is a 5, 5X, or a 10, and I'll explain what that means. So to receive a protection class rating of 5, you have to be within 5 miles from a fire station and within 1,000 feet from a fire hydrant. To receive a 5X, you have to be within 5 miles from the fire station, but it means that you don't have a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet. And a class 10 means that you're outside of that 5-mile radius for a fire station and you do not have a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet of your residence. The fire assessment funding will fund a new fire station in the town of Brooker. Now, we were able to get, again, a state appropriation to build the actual facility itself. But the state appropriation does not cover the staffing for that facility. So with the fire assessment, with the $167 residential rate, that would cover adding 2 personnel every day in the town of Brooker. And what that means is obviously we're responsible.
A long cord
right
that's
now, our
plugged
closest
into the
station is
car
14 minutes
charger.
away, running as hard as they can get there to the town of Brooker from Sampson City.
What happened to the Hampton Fire Station?
There's 2
is going to decrease your rate just because you have a new fire station in your district. That there are many insurance companies that do, but I can tell you not every insurance company recognizes that. They don't use ISO as their gold standard, but again, many insurance companies do. So right now as it stands, this is our current coverage, and every circle that you see is a 5-mile radius. So this means from each one of those stations, that circle that you see, means you have 5 miles. If you fall within that circle, you have the benefit of receiving at least a 5X on your fire protection class rating. So let me explain these circles a little bit more. So LA 50 that you see up there in the top corner, that's Lottie, right? So that's where our Lottie station is located. Hilburn Springs is staffed with 1 supervisor, and we're able to claim partial credit on our ISO rating for staffing Hilburn Springs and having a supervisor there. Station SC 90, that's Sampson City, that's Station 90. Theresa is Station 20. And these all numbers have actually since changed. We've gone back to single digits for, again, more transparency to show that we don't have 50 stations, we have 5 stations. And we don't have, so on and so forth. So again, these are back to single digit numbers. So Theresa Station 20 has also a supervisor station there as well. Speedville is the station down.
Not even going to be able to cover unless I get it plugged in.
Station 10 is the station down in Speedville. And then Brooker would be the new station in the town of Brooker. So all these circles would show you again, anybody who falls within those circles has the benefit of receiving that 5X rating. Or if you have hydrants within your town, you're probably a class 5. So what that means is when we build the fire station in the town of Brooker,